Hey guys, Mulligan here, and this past Thursday, patch 1.20 released for Eternal. So I just wanted to give my thoughts on the patch notes as well as the two new promos that we got along with the patch, and I'll talk about those as well during the second half of the video here. But funny story before we get started. When I used to play Hearthstone, I always hated these type of videos where people would talk about revealed cards that were set to be released in a future set. The reason why is because people tend to see cards in a vacuum and they judge them based on the current metagame that they're in. And yet when the cards come out with the new set, the metagame immediately changes because there's a new set. So from that aspect, it never made sense to me. But people want to know what their favorite player thinks of certain cards, so I can somewhat understand why those videos got made and continue to be made. And here I am making a video on it myself. But yeah, just to go over the patch notes first. With the two promo cards, as always, they're bundled in a quest. This quest is called Distant Lands. So just like before, your first PvP win of the day will earn you a copy of both Alpine Tracker and Oathbreaker. And once the promo period is over, you'll be able to craft the cards using Shiftstone. Which, as of the recording of this video, you've got a little bit less than 2 weeks left to earn the cards for free. Otherwise, you'll have to pay 600 Shiftstone per copy to craft them, which is really not bad at all, given the generous free-to-play model of this game. And 600 Shiftstones, that's even less than crafting a rare, just to give you an idea. But the main thing that came from this patch was the localization, because now Eternal can be played in 9 different languages total. So not just English, but we also we've got French, Italian, German, Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, Greek, and Turkish. Now the voice acting is not in those languages. Only the cards themselves can be read in these different languages. And they do want help as far as if anyone's playing in these languages, they would like help testing and just refining the translation of the game, which I think in the community there were a couple of hiccups, if I remember correctly, particularly in Spanish, surprisingly enough. Just a few words were weird, but I think overall it's been good so far. Next, I want to talk about the UI, and there's just some things that I really appreciate about the UI. Just little things, like the decks and voids on the playmat. They now have depth related to the number of cards they contain, which is actually pretty cool. And now players, they'll say a standardized emote to indicate the lack of action if there's a long period of inactivity, which, I mean, the only one I've seen is I haven't seen anything else being said by the player avatars. Also, you can actually now emote after you've lost the game, so we now have talking craters. We Hearthstone now, boys. In all seriousness, though, I like that change. The buttons in the UI, those are getting more consistent. And even the, I don't know about you guys, but the card shuffling sound in the Mulligan, I don't remember it sounding like this. That just sounds so satisfying. One other thing I want to mention is it's not in the patch notes here, but the searching screen that pops up when you're trying to queue for a game while you're waiting to be matched for somebody, the icons and buttons got realigned for that as well. Shout out to Reddit user Morgrath for for pointing this out like a week or so ago. He had a picture up of, I'll probably have it on the screen, but he had a picture up of how the buttons and icons were, the alignment was off. Once I saw that, it literally annoyed me every time I queued into a game. I could not unsee it. I never noticed it before, but they fixed that. Other than that, though, there's pretty much just a few bug fixes. I mean, the wait time is more accurate while you're waiting for a match, in some cases anyway. But the rest is just bug fixes. Like, I guess some people, when you would spectate a friend, the entire playmat would just be empty, and that should no longer happen. Some draft games had connection issues that would cause you to lose games at the start. That should no longer occur. Some gauntlet runs that ended with no rewards, they should now clean up on their own and no longer require you to enter the event and click done. So I guess it would kick you out of gauntlet back into the main screen, and you have to go back in the gauntlet, click done, and then it would finish. And then timing out with reckless units in play should no longer prevent your timer from reducing on subsequent turns. None of these bugs I personally experienced, but the gauntlet one in particular seems pretty annoying to me. For the mobile phone users, and I know there's a bunch of you that play on phone, you won't have to drag units over. You won't have to drag with using your finger to use targeted abilities like Killer, and you'll just have to tap the units. So, which that works that way in Hearthstone, on tablet and on phone. You're just required to tap stuff, from what I remember anyway. But let's go over and jump into the cards themselves, the two promo cards that we got. So we got Oathbreaker and Alpine Tracker. So I want to say that first, that the general opinion in the community as of the time of this video being made is that both of these cards are pretty bad. But I am in the camp that both of these are actually a setup for the upcoming new set, and that they aren't really meant to have use with the cards we currently have. All of the enemy faction promos we've gotten are a preview, in my opinion, of the theme that Direwolf Digital wants to promote for each faction, at least for the next set. So Xenon with Azendel the Wayfinder, that promotes ramp. Huru with Rilgon, it promotes weapons and buff spells. And then going over to Praxis with the Arcanum Monitor, that promotes obviously flooding the board with tokens, which we've already seen in the constructed metagame. Skycrag with Alpine Tracker, that's going to promote a heavy focus on damage-based spells, board clears or otherwise. And then Argenport with Oathbreaker, it's going to promote lifesteal. So let's start with Alpine Tracker first. So it is a 4-power 3/3 that requires 2 fire influence and 2 primal influence to be played. It has charge. Summon ability is to deal 1 damage to each other unit and each player. So that includes your own units and you, as well as the opponents. It's a decently static card for the cost. Skycrag decks typically play very few or 0 units. I personally have never run into a Skycrag deck that ran units, with the exception of Fevered Scout. However, in talking with other players, they stated that they have seen Skycry decks run things like assembly line. That said, currently the only units that this card has synergy with that I could find, at least initially, are Ticking Grenadin, Rebel Illuminator, and Bait. Other players have mentioned Unstable Form, which is decent. A bunch of people in the community have mentioned synergy with Withering Witch for Felnscar, which is just no, that's terrible. Because Felnscar needs an even slower way to guarantee clear the board than Withering Witch Lightning Storm. I'm being sarcastic, of course, but I personally don't even think Withering Witch and Lightning Storm is that great. Even when Witch was a 1/4 before it got nerfed. And I have a lot of issues with Feln control, as you might be able to tell, but that might be another video for another day. Anyway, honestly, the first combo I thought of was just Alpine Tracker and Lightning Storm on its own. 3 damage does clear quite a bit if you're facing aggressive decks like Stone Scar and obviously tokens. And the fact that it's a 3/3 balances out the fact that it has charge, which is an extremely good and borderline dangerous ability that you have to be very careful with when designing cards. It's basically a 4/3 the first turn it comes down, which passes the vanilla test in a way. Pops Aegis with the summon ability. So Island's Favor, Popular Justice cards like Crown Watch Paladin, Throne Warden stand together, which matters less unless stand together is using a token deck. Aegis is pretty popular in the metagame. Alright, so let's go over to Oathbreaker, which is the card I'm personally more excited about. Whoa. Time out, Mully. I'm sorry, guys, but while I was recording this, I completely forgot to say what Oathbreaker stats were, and I did say what Alpine Tracker stats were, and the reason why I'm saying what the cards do is because I know most of you will be able to see the video and see what the card does, obviously, but for anybody that's legally blind, I wanted to show them some love too. That was the whole reasoning for reading the cards out. So Oathbreaker is a 5-power 4/4 that requires 2 Justice influence and 2 Shadow influence. It has Lifesteal, and when Oathbreaker attacks, your units with Lifesteal get +1/+1. Back to the regularly scheduled program. I personally think this is a good card. Not so much for the synergy with Lifesteal units, because there aren't many in this set in general, and even fewer that actually see constructed play, but just a good card on her own. She does buff herself, so she can get out of hand quick if she's not dealt with. People have been trying her out in mid-range shells, but I'm also kind of hoping she sees use in a Justice Primal Shadow control list. Granted, she's vulnerable to a bunch of spot removal, so you will probably have to overload your deck with threats that have a similar weakness. But as far as the mid-range decks, I don't think most of the units people are trying her with, like Vampire Bat and Cabal Cutthroat, are going to stick. I think for now she just works as a standalone threat in a good stuff style Argenport deck with a very small lifesteal sub-theme with maybe Silverwing Familiar and Hammer of Might, or possibly Lurking Sanguar and even Amethyst Monument as well, since that's a shadow source that doubles as a lifesteal unit once you hit 5 power. But you could even maybe try something jankier like Auric Sentry or Lethrai Falchion. But those are my thoughts on the 2 promo cards as far as where they are now and what could happen once the next set comes out. Finally, though, there's one other thing that I want to talk about, and that is Rapid Shot. Oh wait, that's the wrong image. This one. Here we go. Let's talk a little bit about Rapid Shot. I won't get too deep into it right now, as I may touch on it again in a later video when the nerf actually happens. It's basically confirmed at this point that Rapid Shot will cost 2 power since it was accidentally leaked in the notes for this patch and was removed very quickly. Scarlatch, the community manager for this game, stated on the Eternal Discord that the Rapid Shot nerf is not a mistake, but it didn't make this patch and will be implemented in a future patch. So unless some miracle happens, 2 power Rapid Shot is what we're going to have to get used to. That is the only thing that has changed about the card. The influence requirement is the same and the text is the same. So it still does the same thing, it just costs 1 more. But I want to say that changes to cost requirements to a card, they can make a huge impact in card games, even if it's only by 1. And the main reason why I say that is because every card has interaction points, which in simplest terms is what specific turns cards interact with other cards. So Rapid Shot going to 2 power is gonna mess up things in Stone Scar aggro decks. You can still blow people out by killing their turn 4 Sandstorm Titan with your 2-1, but say you were on the draw that game. If you were on the draw, you're not going to be able to play your Champion of Chaos afterwards. You have to settle for Argenport Instigator or a 1-drop or something like that. And it could potentially throw off math when calculating lethal with cards like Flame Blast, where you miss out on that extra point of damage needed for lethal. So now every point of damage counts even more than ever. It already did, but now it's with Rapid Shot going to 2, it's even more so. But as big as this impact is to Stone Scar aggro, I think it makes an even bigger impact to more mid-range decks that were looking to make use of Rapid Shot, particularly ones that still have a heavy focus on curving out, because those situations where you have to decide between playing your mid-sized threat or using Rapid Shot to take care of an opposing threat are going to come up more often. Now, right now, we don't really have any established mid-range decks that make use of Rapid Shot, but those budding Argenport decks people have been trying out recently that do run the card will have to cross that bridge pretty soon. And I myself was brewing up a mid-range deck that was splashing Shadow just to make use of the card, and now I'll have to rethink some things and consider if splashing Shadow is even worth it now. And no, the deck wasn't Argenport, in case anyone asks. But I'm excited for the release. The last 2 patches mean that Direwolf Digital is serious about releasing the game. Open beta is coming to an end. Question I want to ask you guys is, what type of cards do you want to see in the new set? For me, I'm hoping that they make champion units for the enemy factions. I would love to see what those look like and how their cost to stat ratios are balanced, similar to the current ones we have. But that's going to be it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening to my thoughts on the new patch. If you liked this video, feel free to hit the like button. If you didn't like it, feel free to hit the dislike button, but at least let me know in the comments as to why. And I will check you guys out later on Friday when the next episode of Eternal Heirs comes out. Again, thanks for stopping by and take care.